So with that, please join me in welcoming our very esteemed alumnus, Tom Gaudett.
Well, thank you, Father Hanwell. Thank you so much to everyone for having me. To Father Hanwell, to the staff and the teachers that are here, to the alumni and to the friends of Fairfield Prep. Thank you so much for being here. You know, I was asked to share my experience as a student of Fairfield Prep and now alumnus of Fairfield Prep, and I'd be happy to do that. And I just want to say that, you know, this dinner really is a testament to the strength and the vibrancy of the Fairfield Prep community, and I'm so glad to be here to talk to you all. The essential question that I want to try to answer tonight is why Fairfield Prep? Indeed, why is it that students from all across the state of Connecticut choose to come to this school? And why is it that parents choose to send their sons to this school, particularly those who, at the end of every month, might struggle to make that tuition payment? And why is it that all of you gathered here this evening, time and again, choose to invest in this school? To answer that question, I thought I'd do something untraditional and start with a poem. And it goes like this. In youth, it was a way I had to do my best to please, and change with every passing lad to suit his theories. But now I know the things I know, and do the things I do, and if you do not like me so, to hell my love with you. Now, why is it that I share this poem? Good question. It's a poem by Dorothy Parker called Indian Summer. And the poem starts off talking about our condition of youth. And what are the characteristics of this condition? Well, we're not particularly smart, and we're not very experienced, and we haven't really developed a strong sense of morality yet. And so for these reasons, perhaps among others, we listen to our elders and those that are more experienced than us and authority figures and things like that. But as the poem suggests, eventually we develop an ability to make decisions on our own. We become adults over time. And the reason that I use this poem, or that I share this poem with you, is because I think that the key to this transition from your period of youth to you being able to make your own decisions, good decisions, and make those decisions efficiently, is the same answer to why prep. And since we're in the Dolan School of Business, perhaps I'll put it in economic terms, Fairfield Prep's comparative advantage in education, that with which it teaches with relative efficiency, is values. And values is what's important. That's why prep. The prep values that every student walks away with. That's why Fairfield Prep. It's about the building of character. That's why Fairfield Prep. And as Martin Luther King says, it's, you know, intelligence plus character. That is the goal of true education. So what are these values that Fairfield Prep teaches? Well, you know, we can think of many, but I want to share sort of three that come to mind, sort of three overarching values. The first that I can think of is academic excellence. I think this one is fairly obvious. But it's not just memorizing the elements of the periodic table and remembering your dates in history, but rather it's also about education of the whole self. And in the classroom, we all know that there are high standards. And for those students that are particularly well achieved, there are opportunities to do very well and to take advanced placement courses, etc. But you know, you also know that Fairfield Prep stands for academic excellence by the way that it supports those students that don't do so well in their subjects. And for example, I remember as a student with the SEED program, one of the aspects of it is helping those students that, you know, need a little extra help in their subjects. And so during exam time, you know, I would come and, you know, do some of the lessons before exams or tutor after school. And so you know that the school all around, for every student, stands for academic excellence. And what is the result? At the end of 4 years, virtually 100% of the student body graduates and goes on to an institution of higher learning. And that, I think, is a true success. And that is why Fairfield Prep. The second value that I want to talk about is service and being men for others. This is another one that's fairly obvious given our Jesuit tradition. And if you want to model for what that means to be at the service of others and to be a man for others, look no further than our first Jesuit Pope, Pope Francis. And what does he say? He says that we, as Catholics, are commanded to be at the service of others and to help those that are most vulnerable in the world. And what do prep men do? Well, prep men take service trips to the third world to help those that are most vulnerable. And even in our own society, they help the most vulnerable through programs like the Urban Plunge to go help those people in inner city Bridgeport. But you know, being at the service of others is not just about the most vulnerable, it's about respecting every person. And so, you know, every day through campus ministry, through theology, and all that you do at Fairfield Prep, you learn to be a person that respects everybody and has dignity for everybody and loves everybody. And therefore, you gain this idea of being a man for others. The third value is brotherhood. You know, whether it's on the football team or the basketball team, the hockey team, the baseball team, the debate team even. Prep men learn brotherhood by working together and competing together. And in their extracurriculars, prep men learn brotherhood also by sharing common interests, passions, and goals. And even if you look at the institutional programming that Fairfield Prep has, you know that they care about brotherhood. You start freshman year with a freshman retreat, something that I had the honor of co-leading when I was a senior. And this is sort of the first time that you start to understand why it is that prep brotherhood is so important. And then you develop your bonds of prep brotherhood and all that you do. And then junior and senior year, you have the opportunity to do things like the Kairos retreat, where you start to solidify those bonds that you have with each other. And brotherhoods among students at Fairfield Prep is key to the bonds of the whole prep family and to the strength and the vibrancy that I talked about at the beginning. It's what makes something like this possible. And at the end of 4 years, because of these three values, we become a fraternity of educated men at the service of others. And that is why Fairfield Prep. Now, how does one know, if you didn't hear from me, if you weren't an alumnus, if you weren't a friend of the school, that Prep stands for these values and that the education is worth it? Well, I say look no further than this dinner. Because this dinner is a recognition of your generosity, and your generosity is a reflection of the Prep values, the values that we all cherish, and the values that Fairfield Prep stands for. And your generosity embodies that which all Prep men are called to, which is generosity. To be generous, to give and not to count the cost, to fight and not to heed the wounds, to toil and not to seek for rest, to labor and not to ask for a reward. And your generosity helps people like me. Now, I come from Bridgeport, from a family raised by a single mother, along with my sister, and a grandmother. And, you know, we don't have the money to be able to afford tuition at Fairfield Prep. But your generosity helps students like me. Your generosity provides this son of Bridgeport the opportunity and the experience to learn these Prep values, to become an educated person, and to prove my merit without financial barrier. And for that reason, I am extremely grateful, and I'm indebted to you all. Also, I want to make this very clear. In case any of you were unsure, your investment is a worthwhile investment. The return on investment is extraordinary because of these Prep values. Now, the last point that I want to make is that these values are long-lasting. They don't last just 4 years while you're there. And, you know, there's sort of several reminders that I've had over time of these Prep values. The first one, while I was a student, you know, there was one day I walked into my theology classroom, and Mr. Schuker, who was my theology teacher, for whatever reason, started talking about an old Prep tradition that maybe some of you are familiar with. A long time ago, they used to write at the top left-hand corner, AMDG, which is a Latin phrase, ad maiorem Dei gloriam, which means for the greater glory of God. It's the Prep motto. And I was like, man, why did they ever get rid of such a good tradition? So I decided on my own that at the top left-hand corner of every page that I ever turned in, from that point forth, I was going to write AMDG. And throughout my prep career, It was a reminder, a constant reminder of the values that Fairfield Prep stands for, and it helped me to remember that with all that I do at Fairfield Prep, that I was serving a cause greater than myself. But of course I graduated, and if at Harvard I wrote AMDG at the top of every paper, the professor would be like, huh? So I have a new reminder, and I happen to have it with me today, is my prep ring. And I got this prep ring when I was a junior, and every single day since I received this prep ring as a junior, I have worn it. And it's been a constant reminder every day of the values that Fairfield Prep stands for. And of course, people ask it all the time. It's kind of big. So, even on the train ride today coming to Bridgeport, people are asking me, oh, what's that? And then you have to explain logically. And this serves, again, as a constant reminder of what my education was like at Fairfield Prep and what the values that Fairfield Prep stands for. And unlike most of the things that we learn in school that we inevitably forget, values and the teaching of values operates on a different standard. Once values are instilled in a person, they're meant to last. And prep values are impressed upon us and become a part of who we are. Because the teaching of values takes into account a simple truth. And the English author Terry Pratchett puts it best. He says, "Build a man a fire, and he will be warm for a day. But set a man on fire, and he will be warm for the rest of his life." The flame of prep and its values has been kindled within me, and I am warm, and I forever will be. Thank you.